Welcome to St. Paul the Apostle Catholic Church. Today, we observe Good Friday of our Lord's Passion. The readings are linked below.
Last evening, we mark the end of Lent and the beginning of the Sacred Triduum. And the first Holy Thursday did not end in the Upper Room. It led to the dark night of the Mount of Olives, the dark night about which Matthew and Mark recall that Jesus threw himself to the ground, assuming a posture of humility. And that is why on Good Friday, the commemoration of the Passion of our Lord begins with the priest prostrating himself in front of the altar, and everyone kneels. Good Friday is a day for contemplation. The liturgy begins in silence. It ends in silence. There are no bells, no decoration, an empty tabernacle, a bare altar. The priest wears red vestments, which serve as a reminder of the blood that was shed. Every Good Friday, the Church has us reflect on the Passion narrative found in the Gospel of John. John's narrative begins with our Lord asking the crowd a question. Who are you looking for? Twice he asked them that question, and twice they responded by saying, Jesus the Nazarene. But it's our Lord's response to their answer that's quite revealing. He says to them, I am. He does not say, I am the one, I am he, here I am. He says, I am. That statement harkens back to the book of Exodus, the experience of Moses when he encountered God in the burning bush. When Moses asked God for his name, God replied, I am. My friends, when we contemplate the significance of the cross on this Good Friday, let us remember who hung there. On that cross, nailed to it for our sake, was one who is far more than a wise teacher, much more than a courageous martyr, one who is far more than simply a good man who did a good deed. On that cross is the one we Christians acknowledge as true God, true man. His words are the words of God. His acts are the deeds of God. We encounter in our Lord's Passion an array of characters that we all can identify with. There is Peter with those haunting words, I do not know the man. 3 times Peter denies our Lord. My friends, we do not have to say, I do not know the man with our words in order to deny Christ. Every day we get up and live without reference to Christ. Every day we act as if God does not matter. We deny him. Every time we cultivate anger, pride, jealousy, or envy in our hearts, we say, I do not know the man. When Pilate brought Jesus outside, he said to the crowd, here is your king. They cried out, away with him, crucify him. Pilate asked them, shall I crucify your king? And the chief priests answered, we have no king but Caesar. My friends, today we need to ask ourselves, who is our king? Where does our allegiance reside? Our Lord's last words as he hung on Calvary's cross are, it is finished. Biblical scholars point out that the Greek verb John uses means arriving at the intended goal. When Christ bowed his head in death, it's not far-fetched to assume that his opponents thought it was over. Finally, the man they considered a nuisance had been silenced. Finally, the man they saw as a threat had been defeated. But as they would come to realize, and so must we. On Calvary's cross, the end was only the beginning. From death would come life. John's story of our Lord's Passion begins and ends in a garden. That detail is significant. According to the book of Genesis, the garden was the place where humanity fell from grace, where in disobedience we said no to God. It is in a garden where our Lord was buried. This is how John describes it. Now, in a place where he had been crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new tomb, which no one had yet been buried. So they laid Jesus there because of the Jewish preparation day, for the tomb was close by. My friends, John wants us to understand a powerful truth. In that first garden, sin entered the world, and with it, death. But in the garden where Jesus was buried, a reversal occurs. Sin is destroyed, death is defeated. And that is why we call today Good Friday. Not because of its pain, but because of its triumph. Had we been able to gather today, there is a song that we probably would have sung. When I survey the wondrous cross. There is a verse in that hymn that is particularly striking and worth calling to mind on this Good Friday. It goes like this. Were the whole realm of nature mine, that were a present far too small, love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. On Calvary's cross, Christ gave us his all. As we focus on the cross today, let us ask for the grace to respond to that outpouring of love by giving our all, our heart to God.